and light, peace and light. Much love and light, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Mahatma Starseed. We are on top of the new episode for today for Elite Talks. We are going to be diving into some conscious conversation. I'm super excited with me today. I have a guest. His name is Jehan. I'm saying this right, correct? I'm just learning.
Yeah, you're fine.
I just want to make sure I'm appreciating your name correctly. And welcome you to the show. Welcome. Thank you for coming and sharing your light with the listeners. I want to give you this moment and let you share who you are with the audience.
Well,
Take it away.
thank you for having me on. It's gonna be fun. I'm Jehan Sattaur. I am a CTAA accredited cognitive behavioral therapist, hypnotherapist, nutrition coach, mindfulness teacher, and specialist in the area of subconscious self-sabotage. And what that means is I work on helping people to remove the disempowering thoughts and beliefs from their subconscious mind, which cause them to create less than favorable emotional consequences and circumstances. A lot of that has to do with various ways to change internal dialogue, clear harsh memories, emotions, delete useless information from the subconscious. I also teach people when to meditate, how to meditate, and why you have certain thoughts and feelings during meditation and how you handle that effectively.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing with the audience who you are. I absolutely appreciate those that create this practice for themselves and then have enough energy to go and give it to others. This is no easy feat. So I always say, kudos to you. Kudos to you. This is one of the things that are near and dear to me. I am an advocate of helping people to just restructure their mind, really get out of that self sabotage. There's really no level that you go to where you're not going to see some kind of self sabotage in your life. And so we have to find ways to master how it shows up in our life and how we're creating positive avenues for ourselves to work on it, right?
Absolutely.
So I wanted to open up with today's topic and because we're talking about, the subconscious, the self-sabotage of the self-conscious. I'm getting tongue-tied with all of these S's. The self-sabotage that's created out of the subconscious mind. And that's where we spend a lot of our time living in the day. Like I tell people a lot of times, like 90% of what you're doing and who you're being is from a subconscious mindset. And there's very little room where we get to be super intentional and get to reorganize the concepts that we are feeding into ourselves every day. So, how did you start realizing about your own self sabotage and subconscious? Because those are two different things that, a lot of people are just coming into understanding. So, let's just start with the subconscious, or let's start with was it the subconscious that came into more of an educational route for you, or was it the self sabotage that you started addressing first?
So I'll break it all down based on my findings. I end up helping people who are a lot like me, and I'm sure that happens to you as well. So a brief history of me is that I was born into a household that was full of what we would consider narcissism. My father was a verbally abusive alcoholic, and a part of his routine was he would drill ideas and concepts about who he thought I was into my head on repeat from the day I was born. And he would say things to me like, "You'll never be good enough. You think that you're a musician, that you're better than me. You think that you're going to college, that you're better than me." And he would find
Mhm.
all of these little mind viruses to implant into me. And my sister was the same way. She was exactly like him. And so navigating through my life in what would be considered quite a narcissistic global culture as well, where people don't like to see you doing something that makes you look like you're elevated above they are for some reason. However, their perception is set, they tend not to like that. And so they want to pull you down. It's the crabs in the bucket thing. And so every time I tried to do something, I realized, even from like 10 years old, even teachers didn't like that I was understanding things, because I would never say I was smarter than anyone else, but I had the ability to understand things better than some of the other children. So they would try to do disempowering things. And through those experiences from an early age, I just kind of learned I'm not good enough. It's not safe to be smart. It's not safe to be successful. All these different little bugs got into my thinking. So as I progressed through my life, wanting to be a musician and being very good at it, I kept being met with adversity. And it got a point in my late teens where I just had enough. Everything that happened as a result of my efforts seemed to be leading back to living this self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm not good enough somehow. I'll never be
Mm,
successful somehow. I could never keep a relationship. I could never keep any money in my pocket. Every time I got success, something strange would happen and I'd have to be diverted um, to some other direction that left me feeling stressed out, anxious, depressed, unfulfilled, and just genuinely like my soul was gone. And so um I actually tried to commit suicide a few times as a result of it, because I didn't know how to deal with anything. I was the classic alcoholic, drug addict, needed something to turn it off. And
right.
when I eventually, the third time I tried to off myself, it didn't work. I had a profound moment where I was like, wow, I can't even do that right. And when I heard that come out of my mouth, I realized, man, you gotta get your stuff together. And something just shifted. That's the easiest and simplest way to explain it. So I got very curious as to what was going on. And that led me on a long journey of self reflecting and trying to get fit and reading all these books. And eventually I traveled to the United States, where I got exposed to coaching. And then it kind of went from there, because I had no clue that that was really a whole thing. And just by analyzing that whole arena and being very interested in psychology and eventually going to get um, schooling for psychology and things like that, I started to understand that the subconscious really is doing all of these different things. And what I found happened to me is that once I latched onto that concept that 95% of everything that we do is subconscious, I was like, so I'm really not in control. And my curiosity grew from there. And I got to give it to great pioneers like Albert Ellis in rational emotive behavioral therapy, and um, cognitive behavioral therapy, Aaron Beck. Reading their books and stuff really changed the way that I related to my own thoughts. And so I was able to kind of figure it out. And so once I learned all that, I was like, okay, so the subconscious is communicating to 60 trillion cells, 6 trillion commands per second, but the conscious mind's only processing 140 bits. So you can see how that's problematic, because just having this conversation with you, looking at our computer screens, there's way more than 140 bits of information on the screen or in the room with us, right?
You can say that again.
Right? And so as I learned and I grew and I applied, I realized that I wasn't aware of how aware I was. So hopefully that answers the question.
So it sounds like self-sabotage took you into the realm of subconscious, because yeah, I appreciate you for sharing the attempts at, ending your life in a certain way. And a lot of times, just like talking about that first, because a lot of people, they we get so lost and we do beat up ourselves, and we hear, it's time to end this part of you. It's time to end you. And we take it so literally that we're like, oh, okay, I gotta leave. All right, let me figure out how to make myself leave. And the universe is like, no, 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 we do not mean that kind of end. And certain people, they're here to really imply that understanding. And, you get pushed to where, 2 or 3 attempts and you're like, how is it still not working? And it's, the circumstance of like, that's not the part of you that needs to die. There's other versions of us that need to melt away, walk away, and cease from existing in order for us to be in a newer character for ourselves. And that's why ultimately we all get led to our subconscious memories and how it's impacting our everyday lives.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the subconscious, it holds all of the things that make you who you are and it make you do what you do. It keeps you alive, healthy, and happy. And if something is making changes to this part of your mind, then it can cause big problems or it can create good things. And like I said before, I wasn't aware of the subconscious programs and the behaviors that followed. And unfortunately, very few people really are, which is why they come to us because they want to know, well, how can I get in control of these things? And when you're under stress for any reason, you're operating from your subconscious mind. And that becomes a bitter pill to swallow because the subconscious mind is linked to the limbic system. And they've been researching for years which came first, the emotions or the thoughts. But what the neuroscience has discovered is that emotions move much faster than the thoughts and they bypass the mind's linear reasoning processes. So emotions like
Yeah.
fear can sometimes be inaccurately labeled as anxiety because of some subconscious repeating pattern under the surface that just is hitting against the limbic system. Imagine every time something happens and you try to filter a present experience through a past relationship, a past meaning that you made. And it's like slapping the limbic system all the time. Like when you slap a child and it starts to cry,
Right.
basically.
Right.
And people don't understand then why they go on to make certain choices and they have these streams of thoughts which follow that event. And you're having thousands of biochemical effects in the body and you can't really get in control of that unless you develop that awareness that this is what's happening. This is a process. It's an
Yeah.
ongoing thing until the day that I die. And how do I then begin to learn to witness the unpacking of these programs? Because the way I like to describe it to people is like when you start your computer, Windows loads up, and all of these processes are happening that you can't see in the background. And the thing about it is that the subconscious loves you. However, it is responsible for emulating common behavior, even if it's bad for you, because it counts the number of repetitions. So the more it sees something, the more it says, that's what the herd is doing. That's safe.
Hmm.
And so you will play out these behaviors regardless of whether they're good for you or not. And so that's why it's important to kind of get in control of that because even on a deeper level, and I'll wrap it up here, even on a deeper level, we are still subconsciously playing out patterns that took place thousands of years ago. I like to refer to different belief levels, and there's the common psychological level, which is the core belief level. And that's what we're taught and what we accept from childhood in this lifetime. These are the things that have become a part of us that make up, as Joe Dispenza would say, our personal reality, our personality. And then there's the genetic level, which is all the stuff that's carried over from ancestors that's stored in or added through some epigenetic response in this lifetime. And that's stored in the morphogenetic field of intelligence around the body, and it informs the DNA how to act, how to react, how to fire, and those things. Then there's the history level, which is memories from past lives and um, genetic memory that's stored in the collective consciousness that we all had, like Holocaust survivors and stuff like that. If you wake up one day and suddenly you feel like researching the Holocaust in Germany and you feel as though you were there, that's an indication that you're tapping into history level. And then there's the
Right.
soul level, everything that's in your heart that bleeds outwards, all the things that make you who you are uniquely, you know? So
Yeah.
we got all this stuff that's going on, and it's difficult for the brain as a mechanism to deal with that. It needs our help processing things. And
Yeah.
so, as you know, as a mindfulness coach, the mind is always asking you one question: is it okay to keep this thing? And then you actually have a choice as to whether to say yes or no. I no longer accept that as a part of my subconscious mind. You know what I mean? And that's where people kind of lose, because that's it's not taught at school. They
Right.
don't tell you that.
Yeah. This is a whole new element of living, an encompassment of wholeness that has been, really evaded for a long time, mostly because of separation that has been embedded in our DNA. And so when we are looking as an individual, as a community, being able to understand it from a place of memory banks, that are being automatically installed in our, like, through our DNA, our skin. We have to think of it as like kind of like how when we get a phone, yeah, it says it comes with 128 gigabytes, but I'm pretty sure that at least 10 to 15 of those gigabytes are being taken up for the apps that they need to have already pre-installed, that they know that it just needs to come with you in order for you to be able to interface regularly, like how everyone else is with